So you've heard of a capsule wardrobe maybe, but what about a jewellery capsule? Hello, welcome. My name's Carol. Today I am being joined by Liz Klebba from Closet Play Image, and Liz is an image consultant. I'm so excited that she's joining us today, and we're going to talk about how you plan your jewellery wardrobe. Hello, Liz. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Carol. It's a treat to be here with you.
Liz, some of my viewers may not know what a capsule wardrobe is, so I was wondering if you could just give us a quick rundown of what a capsule wardrobe is, what it means, and what you've been doing with yours, because I've been watching your videos and I've seen you preparing your capsule wardrobe for spring and summer, and you've done your clothes, your shoes, and now your scarves. That's why we thought we'd do jewellery. So can you just talk a little bit about that so that for my viewers, so that they know what a capsule wardrobe is?
Sure. So there's lots of different definitions, but in basic, when you cut down to it, a capsule wardrobe is a small collection of clothes that mix and match and play well with others. So without having a whole bunch of extraneous pieces. I call them wardrobe orphans. And I'm pretty sure you can look in your closet and you go, oh, look, there's an orphan. It's just one of those pieces that doesn't get worn. So the idea of a capsule is to have a limited number of pieces that all, like I said, play well with others, mix and match so that you can create a lot of versatility with fewer pieces. For some people, it's about keeping it easy so they can travel, for example. Basically, anytime you pack a suitcase, you're packing a capsule wardrobe. And for other people, it's a matter of wanting to live with less, simplifying. And for some people, it's just because they're starting over again for one reason or another.
Thank you. And it's important to choose those pieces wisely, right? So that they all kind of play well together.
Yeah.
So that's what we're kind of aiming for with our jewellery as well.
Yes, it requires a little bit of planning. It's not just a go to the store and buy a bunch of stuff.
So it helps you to live with less, really, and be more organised. And for me personally, a capsule makes life much easier because I can look at my wardrobe and I can go, okay, so these things all go together, or most of them go together. So it's much easier to decide what to wear in the morning.
It is. And some people prefer those kind of limits and structures, and other people don't. And I would say that there's certain times in your life when it always works. For example, people who are having children, when you buy maternity clothes, you're not buying an entire wardrobe full of maternity clothes. You're actually buying a capsule. Like I said, when we travel, there's lots of times when a capsule works really well.
When you did your capsule wardrobe, you showed us a picture of the colours and things that you were going to be using, your inspiration, and I will put that here. And I've done the same thing. So for you, what were your colours again? They are...
So an off-white, a denim, and also some navy blues, taupe, and then those are my neutrals, and then my accent colours this season are pinks and shades of green, and a little bit of violet here and there.
Cool. So for me, I did only two neutrals. I did grey because I just seem to have lots of grey pants. I did denim because obviously I wear lots of denim. And I also chose three, so those were my two neutrals, and I chose three colours, which were purple and aqua kind of mint. I kind of made it broad enough that I could wear all of those shades of that kind of aqua mint colour, and pink, because no wardrobe, in my opinion, is complete without pink. So I'll put mine here. Cool.
And it was so much fun when I saw yours, because I remember doing a lavender and aqua/mint summer capsule quite a few years ago, and it made me very happy.
Oh, yes. I love those colours. When I was thinking about it, I was thinking, oh, could I do one with no neutrals? I don't know, I'm a really colourful girl, and I could. But I decided I needed to use what was actually in my wardrobe, not was in my fantasy. Anyway, we need to talk about jewellery today. So there's some things that we need to discuss while we're talking about planning a capsule wardrobe for our jewellery. And what I'm thinking about a capsule wardrobe for jewellery is just to have a few pieces that work with everything in my capsule wardrobe. To enable us to decide that, we need to cover some topics that you are the expert in, like cool versus warm. So can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Okay, sure. So let's talk about color. So we humans, we have three chemicals that help make up our coloring, and that that chemical cocktail that creates our coloring is determined by our DNA. Some people have an undertone that is very cool, and we would think of that as blue-based or more pink. And then some people have an undertone that is more warm, and we think of that as golden. So for example, a redhead has much more beta carotene, which gives her a warm undertone. I have very little beta carotene. I'm very pink and have gray hair, so I have a very cool undertone. Now, some people will say, are you neutral? And you're not necessarily neutral, but you can be cool with some warmth to you, or you could be warm with some coolness to you, but you're never going to be straight down the center neutral. And lots of people like to kind of think, oh, well, I'm neither warm nor cool. I'm like, you are. But that's really the big one, is to try and get, because that determines what color metals are going to look best on you. It determines the colors that are going to make you glow and make you shine. That's really the number one thing that I look at, is undertone.
So for me, I'm one of those people I'm cool toned, but I'm closer to that neutral because I'm a little bit warmer than you. I'm kind of more, the centre line's here and I'm kind of here, whereas you're over here. So
exactly.
So
yeah, it's a continuum.
Just to be clear, warm toned people would wear more gold metal or more warmer toned metals, and cool toned would wear more silver and cooler tone metals, correct?
Yes, things like silver, platinum, pewter tend to look better on people with cooler undertones. Things like brass, gold, and rose gold is a really interesting one, because rose gold really cuts the line down the middle and it can suit both.
That's interesting. And that's a really good go-to if you don't know where you sit, is to go to the rose gold as well. What about mixed metals? So if you're a cool tone person, for example, can you wear a little bit of gold with, how would you?
Yeah, for sure. So I love to mix metals. I know it kind of comes and goes through fashion trends. A few years ago, lots of mixed metals were really, really big. Then they kind of disappeared. Now they're kind of back again this season, which I think is fun, because we all have a combination of things in our jewelry box. I know I have things that are gold from years and years ago. Got a pair of gold hoop earrings right here. And I don't wear them often, but what I normally do is for example, so for me as a cool, if I want to mix in gold, I will either use one of two strategies. Either I'll mix the metals so that it's about 2/3 silver tone, cool tones, and then 1/3 of the warm. I find if you go about half and half, it looks kind of confused, but if you go about 1/3 and 2/3, then it looks intentional, like you meant to do it. And then for warm tones, I would do the opposite. If you wanted to mix in silver, then I would go for 2/3 of the golden kind of tones, and then 1/3 of the cooler silver.
That's great advice. And for your gold hoop earrings, you can always add some silver dangles to them, or some cool tone beads, and that will make them more multi-dimensional for your wardrobe.
I would love a silver wire wrap around them.
What about contrast? Because for me personally, contrast plays a huge part in my jewelry. I am very overall light, but I have dark eyes, and so I need that little pop of something darker to bring me to life. And for me, that's always the element that's missing. If I look at an outfit and I go, well, this just isn't working for me, I can go and get a piece of jewelry that has a dark pop, and it changes everything. So
for sure,
let's talk a little bit more about that.
When we talk about our value contrast, we're talking about the lightest and the deepest parts of us, and contrast meaning the difference between those. So some people have a much deeper overall value. For example, people with dark hair and fair skin would have a very high value contrast. I like to use the Disney princesses because people are familiar with them. So if you think about Snow White, she is a very high value contrast. She's got the very dark hair, the very fair skin. And when you look at her costume, it's also a lot of dark and light in her outfit that they put her in. Then when I think about somebody like Cinderella with the fair hair and the fair skin, what do they put her in? They put her in an outfit that is very light. Whether it's gray or blue is still up for debate. You can go down an internet rabbit hole about what color Cinderella's dress really is. But Disney does it right every time. And so what happens is when we have, for example, fair coloring, like you and I have, but I have dark eyes like you do, or you have, for example, very deeply colored lips, then what happens is without a deep accent to your outfit, you're going to look ungrounded, and it's going to create what we call a body focus versus a face focus. It's going to draw the attention to whatever is out of sync with your coloring.
For me personally, wearing a darker piece of necklace like I have, a darker necklace like I have on today, and darker earrings, it actually draws the attention up to my face. And of course I have my glasses as well, that draws my attention, the attention. So that's actually a good tip to, look at my face is up here rather than, other places. So it actually brings that light to your face. So that's something to think about when you're choosing your jewellery is, there's so much to think about. And I know that, we kind of think a piece of jewellery is just a pretty adornment, but it's actually not. There's actually quite a lot behind choosing the right jewellery, and that's kind of why we're talking today. Choosing the right value contrast is really important. And if you don't know what your value contrast is, obviously you need to look at the Disney princesses.
There you go. They will let you know. And it also works the opposite direction. So if you are wearing, say your coloring is fair, and I'm wearing a dark color today, you need that light then back up near your face to help create the balance. It goes either direction.
So you're wearing a scarf. How would I create that with a necklace?
Okay, then I would grab a bunch of light colored pearls right here if I wanted to do that. Or even if I just wore a large silver necklace, that would create the contrast that I needed.
So I actually have this amazing pearl bib necklace. It's just hundreds of pearls. And that actually, if I do wear something darker, that can bring that attention, as you say, that lightness up to my face. So that's really cool. What about colour contrast? Because colour contrast is another kind of string to that contrast bow, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And that's one of the things that jewelry is so helpful for. So for example, people's coloring can be kind of a variation. You can be you could have one neutral in your coloring, you could have two neutrals in your coloring, or three neutrals, or vice versa. You could have one color, two colors, or three colors. So my coloring is two neutrals. My skin and my hair are neutral, but my eyes are colored. I have a client who has 3C coloring. She has colored hair, colored eyes, and colored skin. And for her, she needs a lot more color in her outfit because otherwise it just drags her down. It's the only way I can describe it. It makes her look unwell. It just blah, blah. She puts it blah. I just look blah. But it can be tricky getting all that color into an outfit without feeling like you're dressing like a clown. So jewelry is the perfect way to do that. So for example, you have on a colored jacket and a colored top. And so if I was going to add a third color to that, what I would do is rather than wearing a necklace that repeats the color of your blouse or is close to it, I would go for a third color there then. So for example, maybe I would go for a pink, if this person had high value or high color contrast. Some people are low color contrast. Some people look best in kind of all neutrals, but that doesn't mean they can't wear a color. So they can. And so that's a great way to add extra color to an outfit without feeling like you're getting that whole clown effect.
And with this trend to be towards wearing lots and lots of neutral or all neutral outfits, that little pop of colour, if you're a neutral +1 person, for example, you do need that pop of colour, and you can get it from that little piece in your necklace. It doesn't have to be a lot, it just needs to be a little tiny piece. So even a necklace with one coloured bead will do the trick. Let's just talk a little bit also about adding texture, because texture is really important in your outfit. And I find personally that I get most of my texture from my jewellery. For example, this piece I'm wearing is very textured. It's got a lot going on. People who have watched my channel will know that I talk a lot about using different textured beads, different shapes and sizes to add the texture. But texture is important in your outfit too, isn't it?
Texture is important for a lot of different reasons. One, it creates visual interest. And also, it can be more flattering as our skin and our hair are, what's the word I want to use? Just our skin becomes more textured as we get older. And some people have, for example, more textured hair. You have textured hair at the top. My hair is quite textured. People who have curls, we consider that hair textured. And so then we look better with some texture in our clothing. But so much clothing is very smooth. And some people prefer smooth clothing because of the feel of it. And so getting texture through our accessories, or maybe through like a fuzzy sweater on top, or through our jewelry, can be really, really helpful. A really important key is to think about how textured is your complexion, how textured is your skin, and then to kind of mirror that in the accessories or the jewelry that you choose. So for example, when we're in our teens and our complexions are their most glorious.
They're beautiful.
Right? Yes, when we are in our prime reproductive years, in those late teens and early 20s.
In that moment between acne and adulthood.
Yes. Yes, right there. When we are right there, then we look amazing in, for example, satins that have a shine and highly shiny jewelry, because we're already shiny and glowing. Then as we get older and our skin becomes more textured, that high shine is not necessarily as flattering. It doesn't mean you still want the sparkle and the reflective value. You do, because that helps bring light to the face, but you may not want it to be in a very highly polished, high shine piece, I guess I would put it. So as we get older, we tend to look better in more hammered metals, more textured pieces, and just a whole lot more subdued. I don't want to say it can't be fun. I mean, it can certainly be, it's just going to have less high shine is, I guess, the only way I can put it.
And I tend to cover that by using a mixture of textures. For example, once again, talking about the necklace I'm wearing, this was a good choice today. This has a lot of faceting on the beads, and they are shiny, but I've paired it with, I don't know if you can see it, I'll put a picture on screen. It's actually got a lot of texture in it as well, and the beads are quite textured. So because I really love that sparkle, I'm a sparkly kind of girl, but I haven't overwhelmed myself with sparkle or sheen, because that just doesn't work for me. I love satin blouses, or silk blouses. They just don't particularly work for me because I've got a lot of texture, as you said. So yeah, that you can kind of grab that in your jewelry and still have that sparkle, but pair it with something that is more textured as you age, really. You and I have talked a little bit in the past about the feel of your outfit. And I know you've talked about it in your wardrobe planning too, because you're having a softer season. And so let's talk about a little bit about how the feel of your clothes and your wardrobe, and how that translates to jewelry as well, affects what you choose.
A lot of times people think of their jewelry as just sort of it's just what they have. Like it's their wedding ring, it's the necklace their husband gave them, whatever. It's just, they have a lot of sentimental pieces and they just wear those over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's who you are and you just want to wear those sentimental pieces, and great. But for a lot of people, they want to play a little bit more with their jewelry, because particularly as we get older, we may not be buying as many clothes. We may not be turning over our wardrobes as quickly. And so getting some variety and expressing our personality more through our jewelry really becomes a great way to express our style personality, for lack of a better way to put it, because at the age that we are, can be more and more challenging to find the clothes that we want, to be perfectly honest. It might have to do with our size. It may have to do with physical capability issues. It could have to do with just the shopping the season. And like, there may not be something fun. If you can sew and make your own things, then that's fabulous, because then the world is your oyster, right? You can always have what you want. But what we want and what is available are not always in sync. So jewelry is a great way to express that. Like you said, I'm in a season right now where I need a whole lot more softness. Other times I'm feeling a whole lot more bold. My jewelry that I'm pulling together for this capsule that I'm living in right now, because it's spring here, at least in the north, it's not my typical jewelry. It's a lot more of those little sentimental pieces. It's a lot more floral. It's definitely out of sync with my normal kind of more bold and edgy style.
Yeah, and I notice with me, when I'm having a day where I feel less bold, that's a good way to put it actually, it's just a little bit less confident. I will choose the pieces of jewellery in my wardrobe that are a little bit more subtle. So that's something to think about when you're choosing your jewellery for your wardrobe, is How are you feeling in this particular season? You know, are you going through a tough time and you just feel like you want to cuddle up at home with a cozy blanket? If you're feeling that way, obviously you can't cuddle up at home with a cozy blanket for the entire time. But when you go out, maybe think about a piece of jewellery that, as Liz says, is sentimental to you or has that softer feel, you know, and you can kind of take that coziness with you a little bit.
Yeah, something that makes you feel nurtured and makes you feel safe or cared about, whatever that is that you're in need of. And I think a lot of times people don't think about their clothing and their jewelry. Yes, they're covering our nakedness, and yes, they're adorning us, but they're the things that we buy and that we put on our body should support us in our day. I know that sounds kind of elevated and kind of big, and some people are just like, I'm just getting dressed. I'm like, yeah, no, you're actually arming yourself for the day. And what do you need for your day?
Yeah, and you know, I have outfits in my wardrobe that if I'm feeling less confident, I can put them on and it's like getting an immediate hit of confidence because all of a sudden I know I look great. And here's a little tip for you, and Liz will agree with me. Personally, I do it every day. Always take a photo of yourself because then you can have them on your phone, you can scroll through, you wake up in the morning and you think, oh, I don't feel like getting dressed today. What you can do is you can look at the photos on your phone and go, okay, I felt really good in that outfit and I can recreate that. It will make you feel $1 million, way better. As soon as you get out of bed and you get dressed, you'll feel great.
And the other thing is that it also helps you see what's working and what's not working in a much more objective way than we can really look at ourselves in a mirror.
Yeah, I agree with that actually. I've taken photos of outfits thinking I looked really good. And I've looked at the photo and gone, oh no, that's not working. It doesn't look right around my waist, or, you know, maybe my proportions were wrong. Maybe I needed to untuck instead of tuck or something like that. So those photos are actually really good. And I never see that in the mirror. So we should actually talk about choosing the right jewellery now for your capsule wardrobe. So for me, I find that choosing the right colours is important. And with the preparation of moving my wardrobe to my my purple and mint aqua colours, I've actually been making a few pieces and I've chosen some beads that are in those colourways. But that's not absolutely essential, is it?
No, and it really depends. Like you said, it depends a little bit on your coloring. For example, I find that I am more, my wardrobe is usually based more on neutrals in the summer, which is counterintuitive. Lots of people go for more color in the summer. I go for more neutrals because where I live is very, very hot, and I need that kind of zen, cool feeling that you get from like grays and whites and things. And so then how do I get my color? I want more colorful jewelry in the summer. Other people are the other way around. They're going to want more silver or gold in the summer because they're wearing lots more color in their clothing. So you need to think about where's that balance for you.
That's
how that plays out.
Yeah, that's really important too. I actually do the same. I wear way more white in the summer than I do in the winter. I've decided to keep my white denim skirt in my wardrobe for this winter, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, I do tend to wear much more colour in the winter, and I think for me it elevates my spirit.
I'm the same way. I like colour in the winter because the weather is grey and drab, and I need all the boosting I can get.
So thinking about the capsule wardrobe, the first thing you need to decide is, are you a warm or a cool person? So are you going to go with golds and bronzes and things and coppers, or are you going to go with silvers and platinums and maybe a little bit of rose gold? So that's a good place to start, is, you know, colouring. Then you need to think about the colours that you're going to choose. So if you've chosen your colours for your wardrobe already, you can choose some beads and things that work with your wardrobe. Now, I know that not everyone is a jewellery maker like I am, and so you aren't necessarily going to go and choose some beads and make yourself a piece of jewellery, but that doesn't mean that you can't find the correct piece. You know, for example, with my lavender, you know, I'm sure that I can find a piece of jewellery somewhere out there that has some lavender beads on it. It may not have or some purple beads, maybe some darker purple beads. It may not have the mixture of the two colours, but that's okay, because I could have, you know, a lavender or purple necklace and I could have a turquoise necklace that would still go within the flow of my wardrobe, correct?
Yeah, yeah. And I always love to make sure that I have, particularly if your clothing is more neutral, like so many wardrobes are highly neutral, I like to make sure that I have accent pieces, jewelry, bags, maybe shoes, but definitely jewelry in those colors that I've chosen to be my accent colors. That way I can pop my neutrals and I can add an extra color to my colors if I feel like it.
That's a really good tip. If you're not a person who wants to add colour with your jewellery, you can just choose, the metal in your skin tone. For example, silver for me, gold for a warmer person. So you don't actually have to wear coloured jewellery. But I would still look for texture, and I would still look for interesting pieces, pieces with interesting shapes and things, rather than just I'm probably gonna offend some people here, but for me, a chain with a little dangle on it, a little pearl or a little bead is the most boring thing in the world. And it doesn't add any value for me to your outfit. I know that a lot of people feel that that is a valued accessory, and often they are those sentimental pieces. So it adds sentiment, but it doesn't add value in terms of
Impact.
yeah, impact. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So I would kind of think of choosing a piece that is a bit bolder, and it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be this. You're wearing a beautiful pair of hoop earrings. They're very subtle, even though they're large. They make a statement, but they're not out there. So you don't have to go kind of all coloured or big and bold. You can choose more delicate pieces, but just don't go boring.
There you go. Well, and I think something particularly for people who are making their own jewelry, don't forget about the impact of those neutral stones. So things like pearls, whether they're in the gray family or the ivory family, or, stones like topaz, that a lot of those brownie topazes. So there are lots of neutral stones out there as well. And some of those beautiful, I've seen some gorgeous pendants that just look like rocks from the beach, for example, that are, buffed and made very, very thin so that they have the hole in them. And I'm like, those are beautiful. They're very neutral, but they still can have impact and add drama to an outfit without adding color, if that's something that's...
Yeah, you said it so much more eloquently than I did. That was what I was trying to say. You don't need to be wearing a lot of colour. So how many necklaces?
That depends on the woman.
Yeah.
It depends on if they're small. So if I'm wearing a grouping of smaller necklaces, right, I'm going to probably wear 3. For some reason, odd numbers are more appealing. So like if I was wearing 3 bracelets, it would be 3 or 5 or whatever. Often I do the same thing with necklaces. It's usually going to be 3, but there's those smaller sentimental pieces that I'm stacking. If it's something large and more statement, then I'm probably just going to be wearing that. Something that I do is I like to mix up my necklace and my earrings. Some people prefer a more matched kind of a set, a more matchy look. I prefer it to be a little off kilter. So I won't wear a necklace and a pair of earrings that go together. I'll wear the earrings with something else and the necklace with something else, because that works better for me. How many necklaces would I have in a seasonal capsule? Depends on the season. One thing I always think of in summer, I tend to wear fewer necklaces because where we live, it is blisteringly hot. And when you walk outside, a metal necklace on your skin can be painful. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, woo, it's like standing in front of an oven, particularly when you get in the car. And so it's like, oh, that's the time where if I'm wearing a necklace, I want it to be stone. That's going to feel cooler and it's not going to heat up the same way. I would probably have 5 to 10 necklaces because I like necklaces. Some people would wear fewer necklaces, but they really like bracelets. So it's something to think about. What is your preferred, I would say, what do you gravitate toward, right?
And that's actually a really good point. You really need to think about what is going to work for you in terms of, are you an earrings person? Do you like big statement earrings, or do you like just to wear a little sleeper? Do you need, as Liz said, several layering pieces, or do you need one bold piece? And bracelets as well. And for me too, I'm a brooch girl, so I wear a lot of brooches. And so I've been thinking about this a lot over the last week or so. And could I limit myself to several, to 5 or 6 necklaces? Or just a couple of pairs of earrings, and I think I could. I have a few favourites, and they kind of move in and out of season for me. So last year I wore my necklace with my heart all winter. I was in one of those seasons of my life where I needed to be coddled and cuddled. And so wearing that smaller piece of jewellery, because it wasn't as big and a statement as this one, it worked really well for me. And I wore a lot of those smaller pieces. And I probably only had about 3 that I wore most of the time. And this season, going into this winter, which I am now, I'm feeling much more bold, and I feel like I can, do the bolder pieces. And so I am going to choose probably 5 necklaces. I'll be making some more because that's what I do. But
yeah.
What I want to do is choose some pieces that have the purple and the turquoise. So I want some turquoise pieces, some of the purple pieces, and some mixed pieces. I made a necklace last week which is mixed, and I think that kind of brings everything in. And I made a bracelet as well. It kind of brings all of those colours in. But having said that, I've also got pink in my wardrobe. Do I often wear pink necklaces? No, pink is too soft for me to wear in my necklaces. So that's something to think about as well. I can't wear a pink necklace unless I'm wearing a darker top. As Liz says, we need to bring that light in. But if I very seldom wear a darker top colour close to my face. So pink necklaces don't necessarily work for me. So that's something to think about as well. So I think you need to decide for yourself how many pieces you want in your capsule. I don't think it's something that someone else can tell you. Like, I know, there's people who say, for example, there's the 10-item wardrobe. Personally, I can't live with 10 items in my wardrobe. It's not enough. I did a capsule wardrobe challenge a few years ago and I had 14 items, but I did not include my jewellery or my shoes in that, or my scarves, so it actually ended up to be quite a lot more. And, it's what works for you, isn't it, Liz? It's just about personal preference.
It really is. And the one thing that drives me bananas in this world is must-have lists. So, when you read all you have to do is look and say, wardrobe must-haves. And if you put in jewelry must-haves, you'll get classic watch, strand of pearls, diamond stud earrings, pendant necklace, a gold pendant necklace. I'm like, I don't need a gold pendant necklace. I don't need diamond stud earrings. They're not me. A nice classic watch. Okay, maybe. It depends. That would be great. But your must-haves are going to be yours. They're not going to. So looking at the lists can be a really interesting exercise in evaluation and looking at the list and going, is that something I would actually wear? But it should never be a shopping list as far as I'm concerned, because that's just a shopping list for disaster. Because those are the things, when I go into a client's closet all the time, they'll say, well, they said I needed to have a crisp white shirt. And I'm like, but you're not a crisp white shirt person. You only ever wear t-shirts. Can I tell you how much money I spent on crisp white shirts in my 20s and 30s because everybody told me I needed one? But I'm not a crisp white shirt girl. I was in my uniform because I wore one for my military uniform, but for the rest of my life, no. Never.
And that's actually probably why you're not a crisp white shirt girl, because you wore it as a uniform.
Maybe. Entirely possible. I mean, I love a great white blouse. I just don't like a collar.
It really annoys me when people, you look at the lists of must-haves and it's always a little black dress. You put me in a little black dress and I look terrible. Put me in a little blue dress and I'm fine.
So there you go.
With your jewellery, you need to make those choices for yourself. And I would start, if I was starting out with jewellery and deciding, okay, I've got my colours for my wardrobe. With necklaces, I would start out by thinking about 3. As Liz says, things work in 3s. I would choose a piece that is maybe in your colour metal that is just, a very neutral but has texture. I would choose something that goes with all of your clothes if you can. Actually, I'd probably choose 2 pieces that go with all of your clothes. But if you can't get a piece, so for example, my lavender and aqua, if you couldn't get a piece that went with both those colours, you could get one that goes with, the lavender and one that goes with the aqua. That gives you 3 initial pieces to start with, so I hope that helps. And with earrings, as Liz says, you can never go wrong with a pair of hoops in your coloured metal. That is number one go-to for me, is a pair of hoops. And they can be in any size. They don't have to be big hoops like Liz is wearing. They could be little hoops if you're a more understated person. So if you start with that and, maybe a pair of dangly earrings in each colour, that would work as well. So I think that's a fairly good place to start. So Liz, do you think you'll be employing a capsule jewellery wardrobe this winter, summer?
I think so. It's time. I was actually looking. So my jewelry sort of migrates onto a hook next to my mirror. And I looked at the hook and I was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of things here that are from winter. And I'm like, oh no, it's time to actually walk on over there and take everything off and grab I keep the things that I'm not wearing, like I would call them my out of season pieces. They live in a plastic shoe storage box, right? And so I think it's probably in little baggies so that they don't get tangled. I'm good about that. But it's time to pull them all down and just put up the things that I've actually been wearing and get those other ones out of the way, because they're creating an illusion of choice. They're hanging there, but I know I'm not going to grab them. And so I just need to stop them cluttering up my world right now.
Yeah, and it's actually, you made a really good point there. Don't throw your jewellery that you're not using away. Just put it in storage. And the same with your clothes, because what comes around goes around. But also, actually, I was talking with a friend about this last week. She was feeling overwhelmed by her wardrobe. And I said to her, okay, so pick 3 colours and 2 neutrals and get everything else out. And she did. And she said, I feel like a huge weight's been lifted off my shoulders. And you can do the same thing with your jewellery. You can pick a few pieces that you think will work for this season, put the rest in storage, as Liz says, in little baggies, and I'm not very good at that. So, and then, put it away. You can just wear these pieces that work with your wardrobe. And if you feel the need to go and grab something out of that box during the season, then that's fine. They're still there. You haven't gotten rid of anything. You can still go back to them at any time. Just choose a few pieces that work for you now.
For sure.
Now, before we go, you mentioned this, you kind of touched on this before. We need to talk about, what is an accessory bundle?
So what's a bundle? So I like to think of them as accessory bundles or beauty bundles if I'm adding in other things as well. But they are combinations of accessories that play well together. Not necessarily a match set. Like we just talked about sets a second ago. We think of a set like a necklace and earrings. Oh, there's a name for that. And necklace and earrings and like brooch set. There's a fancy jewelry name for that. I don't remember what it is. For example, they play well together, and you tend to grab them time and time again. So I have a couple of tortoiseshell bracelets that I really love, that I tend to grab them and wear them with a necklace that has, it's not tortoiseshell, but it reflects that same feeling. That's the only way I can describe it. And so sometimes those will be by color. So for example, that might be the necklace you're wearing now with the kind of turquoise and mints, and then the earrings. And then maybe you've got a little turquoise or mint bag or shoes, or a scarf that you might wear with those necklaces. So we think of that as an accessory bundle. They all play together. They could be based around color. They could be based around theme. For example, I have kind of a rock and roll bundle that I think of, like if I'm going to a concert, it is pretty much always what I grab. It's a pair of snakeskin boots, and then there's a black leather bracelet. There's a pair of big hoop earrings, and there's some black and hematite jewelry, right? It's my rock and roll bundle. It doesn't matter what I put it with. I could put it with jeans and a t-shirt. I could wear it with a white dress, right? Whatever I wear it with, it gives that feeling to the outfit. So it could be more of a theme kind of a bundle, or it could just be color by color.
And what can you include in your accessory bundle?
Oh gosh, you can include any of your jewelry. So brooches, earrings, bracelets, necklaces. I often will think about shoes and bags as well, scarves, hats, anything that isn't just the basic pieces that you're wearing. Some people even include their toppers, so their jackets or things, but I tend to think of those as my main pieces. So for me, it's usually really just about the accessories, the hats, the scarves, the jewelry, the shoes, the bags.
I need to get myself a rock and roll a rock chick accessory bundle, because being overall light, there's nothing. You don't look rock chick at all in pastels, I'm telling you.
No. Most of us, yeah, I don't either. But that's a piece of my personality, and it's like, okay, yeah, so she needs to come out here and there.
And I tend to think I go more rock chick with my jewellery than anything else. I mean, I've got a couple of motor jackets that I can wear, but they're in pastel colours. But if I wear some darker jewellery, that kind of brings my inner rock chick out a little bit with different boots, because, I'm a boots girl. So that's really interesting. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
It's been lovely chatting with you today, Liz. Thank you so much for joining us.
It has been a privilege and a pleasure to spend time with you, Carol. Thank you so much.
And I hope that helped you decide whether an accessory bundle or a jewellery capsule wardrobe is right for you. Let us know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed hearing what Liz has to say about capsule wardrobes and jewellery today, then make sure you check out her channel. I'll leave it linked below. Thank you so much for watching today. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon.